As I begin my explanation of why I am a no on this bill, I want to acknowledge that this is a very sensitive topic. My opposition is not directed toward any person or any group of people. While I will not shy away from seeking the truth, I will strive to treat others the same way that I would want to be treated. We should all have a common goal in ensuring legislation that passes this chamber is rooted in what is true and good for our great state. It is important we look at the actual language of this legislation and what would actually happen if it becomes law. I would argue that the short description of this bill as prohibiting conversion therapy is just partially true at best and incredibly misleading at worst. House Bill 4616 adds the following language to Michigan's mental health code. A mental health professional shall not engage in conversion therapy with a minor. A mental health professional who violates this section is subject to disciplinary action and licensing sanctions as provided under, and then goes on to list various sections of the Public Health Code. The companion bill, House Bill 4617, adds the following definition of conversion therapy to Michigan's mental health code. Conversion therapy means any practice or treatment by a mental health professional that seeks to change an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity, including, but not limited to, efforts to change behavior or gender expression, or to reduce or eliminate sexual or romantic attractions or feelings toward an individual of the same gender. Conversion therapy does not include counseling that provides assistance to an individual undergoing gender transition, counseling that provides acceptance, support, or understanding of an individual, or facilitates an individual's coping, social support, or identity exploration and development, including sexual orientation neutral intervention to prevent or address unlawful conduct or unsafe sexual practices, as long as that counseling does not seek to change an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity. The label prohibiting conversion therapy is a misleading description of these bills. A better description would be state-mandated ideology of human sexuality. This legislation does far more to advance certain gender ideologies than it does to prohibit conversion therapy. The first glaring problem with this legislation is that it limits the ability of a mental health professional to do their jobs. It substantially limits mental health providers to one set of actions. Under this proposal, when a minor walks into a mental health professional's office and they say they want to transition into another gender, the mental health provider is limited to only one response: okay. I suppose the next logical question would be, do you want to start with hormone blockers or should we jump right to a double mastectomy? It says right in the definition that conversion therapy does not include counseling that provides assistance to an individual undergoing a gender transition, as long as that counseling does not seek to change an individual's gender identity. Whatever the child wants to be, they shall be, and there shall be no conversation by the mental health professional otherwise. How is this for the good of the child? The common justification used to support gender transition is that it reduces the risk of suicide. However, this assertion is not universally accepted in the scientific community, and it ignores the long-term effects, both mentally and physically, of making elective and permanent adjustments to one's own body. The stories of those who, in fact, detransition are heartbreaking, and their struggles they endure are compounded by their original decision to transition. These so-called treatments have lifelong consequences. To name a few: physical scarring, damaging of one's endocrine system, or possibly even jeopardizing the ability of these children to have children of their own later in life. It is just astounding that we would use the force of state law to pigeonhole mental health professionals into carrying out such drastic medical treatments for children who have their whole life ahead of them. The second issue is this legislation gives contradictory mandates to mental health professionals. What is a mental health professional supposed to do when somebody wants to detransition? I suppose by the letter of the law, the only answer again is okay. Imagine a scenario where an indecisive young kid is wavering on what to do in the course of a single conversation. They may go back and forth on what they really want. In this situation, under the legislation, the mental health professional is really just a spectator. What good is their license to practice mental health if they can only prescribe one method of treatment? Make a suggestion outside of the predetermined outcome, and there will be disciplinary action or maybe even a loss of one's license. Where is the wisdom in this type of policy? Our children need adults to provide guidance based on what is in their best interest, and, as any parent knows, at times, sound judgment must be used to prevent children from making a mistake. This leads us to the third and potentially most profound problem, the potential of exclusion of parents from this entire process. I say this because of Proposal 3, which was approved last November. Proposal 3 states, every individual has a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, and in the list of enumerated reproductive rights is sterilization. Furthermore, it is likely a large number of treatments for gender identity could be classified as reproductive freedom. And since this new constitutional language gives this right to every individual without limiting to certain age groups, and since this bill would require mental health professionals to comply with a minor's request without obstacle, the door is wide open for treatment to commence without parental involvement. Both this bill and Proposal 3 are vague enough to permit such a situation to occur, and it is deeply troubling. I will end with this thought. When these kids come looking for guidance, they should receive it. This bill does more harm than good because it hinders the ability for mental health professionals to be impartial. Thank you, Mr. President.